Hey guys, it's Ebony and Ivory. Welcome back to our channel.
Welcome back. Hope everyone's doing good.
We're back with another reaction. Today we're going to be checking out an interesting video. It's about a man born in the 1800s. And I kind of find history videos interesting. So I really want to see what the video is about. So join us. Let's check this out.
For me, every time I think about someone living like 50s, 1950s and before that, I always feel like it must have been such a different world.
Yeah, so I'm
like
kind
how
of
people
anxious.
used to live.
1853, like
65 years ago, about 65 years ago, I came across the ocean from England to the United States, the family settling in Philadelphia. I there attended the public schools and the boys.
First of all, I look at the setting, like you see them sitting. This was recorded
1932.
Yeah, just imagine, like you could hear all the background noise, and you just imagine there were actually kids around playing around there, and you could see at the background cars, moving. There's like two people sitting and discussing how life was at that time, and that's how the picture that plays in my head, in my mind about everything. Hear the audio, the way it sounded as well. It's just so.
You know, when he mentioned that he came basically from England to United States and then they settled in Philadelphia, I just think like those times, 1800s, you can imagine you're on a boat, and it's not like a boat like you have today. You're on a on a boat. It's gonna be way longer for you to travel than it is today on a boat. You know, I have like this fear of like deep sea and like boat kind of capsizing or something happening and you sink. And I just thinking about taking a trip like that, I can imagine how it was back then. No proper electricity.
Nothing.
The public schools and the Boys Central High School eventually, but there was an interval between my attendance of one of the schools. It was not a direct succession. I was forced out of school at 11 to stay out 2 years because the entrance age of the Boys Central High School was 13. And I was only 11. So the problem was what to do with me during the 2 extra years. Well, some of the advisors said, keep him away from books and let him develop physically. I said, if you do that, you might as well kill me now, because I've got to have my books. So they modified the decision into saying, well, you can have them, all right. So I got hold of a book which was called The Magician's Own Book.
This discussion, the both of them, I'm just thinking, what prompted the discussion and the person recording decided just to break, is they just try to record so they can show to their children, or I don't know, and you see the guy listening, like a friend who just pays a visit to his friend, and then you hear him, talk about his childhood.
I think, when they were recording it in 1932, the world was much different to 1800. I mean, in 1900, technological advancement went like a train. It suddenly just started going. Like, if you imagine how much we did in those 100 years compared to the previous 1800 years. So I think it was probably interesting for someone to listen how it was to live in 1860. No electricity, most likely. I think electricity was somewhere like early 1900s. That's where they started like the whole thing of like electricity being available to people. But many other things, no cars, carts and a horse. All that stuff is just, I think was probably something very interesting to them. But what's, interesting is that we're looking at an old video for us now, and someone in that video is talking about something that happened before that as well. What I find interesting as well is the fact that they had like 2 cameras. And you can see how actually he was really interested in books. I think books have a lot of knowledge, and that was probably something at the time, if you were able to read books and learn, this is the way to learn, really, like being able to read books, or spend time with someone that, maybe is good at certain profession, and you spend time with them and learn their profession and you become good at it as well. But I think books probably were, a source that would allow you to kind of really learn about different things.
Yeah. I find this so interesting, really.
You can have them, all right. So I got hold of a book which was called The Magician's Own Book.
Magicians.
A book telling of puzzles and tricks and all kinds of little things, chemistry experiments, electrical experiments.
Oh, that's a book.
The electrical
1857.
chapter was what struck me at once. And they told how to make an electrical machine out of a wine bottle. And I immediately set to work and made just such a machine and started it in operation. And I got my first view of electric sparks from that machine.
Whoa.
My first knowledge of electricity from that machine. And I made a whole lot of apparatus which is recommended to be made, like Leyden jars and little things of attraction and repulsion, dancing figures and so on, and I had that whole equipment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it was such a jump, technological jump, you know, when he was growing up to where he's now like an older man, that is just very interesting to hear about. You know, making like those little experiments, like how to, you know, make some electricity and all that. For me, very interesting thing, because, you know, we're so used to living in the world we live in, you know, having cars, electricity, houses, you know, everything is so advanced compared to where they were living. You know, we have like electrical heating, central heating, water heating, all this stuff, you know, toilet, plumbing systems in place. Everything is, you know, so different compared to the times they were living in. How cold the house must have been if there was a winter. You know what I mean? It's not as built the same way it is built today. Even though like a little bit older houses, actually they're built in a good way as well. But you understand the point.
Yeah.
You know?
So on, and I had that whole equipment, along with a stool which was made by bottles and the board for making the insulated stool in order to insulate a person that wanted to be charged, and we charged them. With an arrangement of this kind, my father rather poo-pooed the magnitude of my efforts, and I thought I had to get even with him somehow, so I made a battery of 5 jars and put them into operation and asked him to take the shock. I never heard after he took that shock any more derogatory remarks about my apparatus.
I always enjoy like historical, you know, listening to old men who have had like different experience from what we have, you know, today. I just picture and imagine myself maybe living in those early days, and it's just amazing where they've come from and how far, how hardworking they actually were at that time. Because that's what I call really hard work. You start like the picture of the book there, like you can imagine who wrote that book. Do you kind of try to imagine who was the author of the book? It's just interesting.
I think there's a lot of stuff we kind of come to expect and find as a standard. But as I said, like simple things like a plumbing system, electricity, you know, insulation in the house, things like that. People had to live in such a more harsh environment. How hard it must have been. Even like access to the food. You can eat today what you want. Back then, it was like whatever was available, you know, whatever you farmed. It was so different. You know, you can eat ice cream today, go to McDonald's, whatever. Back then, like nothing like that. In 1900s, I feel that life was so much harder. Today, we have all those things that people back then could only like dream about.
Well, guys, thank you all so much for hanging and checking out this with us. And we'll see you all in the next video from us. It's bye.
See you later.